They've been struggling in a lot of their other games. Contractz, I think, has been pretty inconsistent, though he did have a great game against C9, and it was nice to see him be able to have that to try to rebuild some of that confidence, because I had pretty big expectations for him coming into this split, and a lot of people did. He had proven himself really at the kind of second tier 2 level of competition to get back to the LCS, but hadn't really been living up to those expectations so far.
Definitely the greatest sweat appearing on his brow because of that magnifying glass, but we did see a great performance on the Hecarim, for instance, which is not just a meta pick, but when you have that jungler that is willing to play around it with the rest of the team, can be so well executed, but no longer available because of that ban from Immortals' side.
Yep, absolutely. And we have been kind of seeing a bit of that evolution in the jungle picks. You know, it had been a lot more Lee and Xin and Trundle. We're getting Udyr in there. We're getting Hecarim. We're getting Volley. These picks that are kind of coming in, whether it's in picks or bans, are becoming a lot more popular. Immortals with the early Karma. So Karma is a champion that normally is getting banned out, is considered very, very strong, not only because of that bot lane 2v2, but also the ability to flex this around. Immortals haven't really been doing any of this my top stuff, and that doesn't really feel like Revenge's style, but it is possible to play this mid, top, or in support, so there is that threat of a flex.
Which is why we continue to see it early on within these drafts, regardless of whether or not the team has run it in the past. Revenge and Jenkins have both been empowered with a lot of powerful split pushers, those that can really enable the team through that aggression, and Gwen being locked in, continuously present within the drafts across the LCS.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just a generically really strong pick, and I think, you know, as a result, when you have a champion that can lane well, can team fight well, can split push well, it's going to get played a lot in pro. Would be interested to see what the answer will be on the top side. Akali coming through does feel like a revenge pick more than PoE. He has played it in the past, but I do think this is going to be the answer to the Gwen. Can be a bit of a tricky matchup because of some of the interactions, you know, utilizing the Shroud to try to immune some of the damage coming through, or utilizing the initial throw of that Shuriken flip, because if he drops the Shroud, you have to actually be inside the Shroud to hit the E1 to then be able to reactivate and get that E2. So we'll see if that is up to Revenge, which I'm expecting it will be. I'm expecting it's going to be Karma support, and we'll probably just get a 5th pick, some sort of mage for PoE. Ahri was banned out. That has been kind of a little bit of spice for him. It's getting very popular in pro, and it's something that can be pretty aggressive, and he really does excel on.
And did not result in the victory when played it last week, but still something that you want to continually see from mid laners, especially one like PowerOfEvil, who has called out in the past that it's great to see Ahri back with a bit of the new digs, you know, that she's sported since those recent changes. For CLG, since the beginning, we've talked about the importance of that bot lane, playing around Luger, playing around Poome, and it's the Jhin, Tahm, Kench that they've locked in. But the final rounds of bans coming through as well. Kennen never into the pocket of Jenkins and more.
Yeah, the Kennen ban rather is pretty interesting, because that says that they're thinking this might actually be Gwen jungle, right? Because we were kind of assuming it is going to be top. It's played much more frequently top. Gwen jungle is mixed in, but not usually that popular. They are still worried about that matchup in particular, though, so going to be banning that out. A bit of a mixed bag. Volley getting taken off the table. So yeah, a lot of the new kind of evolution of jungle has all been banned out. Xin is still available, so it feels like a pretty obvious grab here for Immortals, and then you just 5th pick your mid, very likely for PoE. I like this, and I think it makes sense to kind of be banning out the Volley against Xerxe. He's someone that has excelled on that champion in the past, and he's someone that always is really good at these kind of more like fringe meta picks.
In that game against EG, was so proactive in executing on a lot of the dives and leading the rest of the team into the fray. You could kind of hear the comms that were coming along with it that IMT was following up on, which has been a difficulty for them throughout the season thus far. And then for CLG, you're looking at some really good Ryze play from Palafox in the past that they want to bring to the forefront now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to find out, you know, is this actually going to get flexed to the jungle? GP, Olaf, they're hovering a lot of stuff here, so I'm not going to react too heavily. It is the GP getting locked in, so it will be Gwen jungle. So AP jungle here, GP up on the top side for Jenkins. Did have, I think it was in lock-in where he did have that one game where he was just saying chain dove, if I have that correctly in my head, which was pretty brutal. But he is known for his GP, likes to do some of these more greedy GP builds, you know, including Muramana Essence Reverse style builds. Orianna last pick here for Immortals. you know, they're not really a team that's going to surprise you generally in the draft. You know, PoE is pretty set and standard, but they have a pretty strong team fight composition. Not the best delivery systems, I would say, for the Orianna ball, but you can still utilize that with Akali or Jhin. Try to fight around that. You have a heavy pushing bot lane. Jhin can play towards that side, try to stack dragons. On CLG side, it's much more, it feels like, about the 1-3-1 and about delaying the game, slowing down the pace, trying to get farm, especially for your top side of the map. You know, Poome and Luger are going to have to try to stay safe against what is a pretty brutal pushing bot lane in that 2v2. And if CLG can withstand the storm, well, then I think it's going to be really difficult for Immortals to match the Ryze and the GP in sides. Even Contractz can potentially split push if he gets enough farm on the Gwen. So a lot of late game options for them, and some pressure on Immortals to try to push the pace here in the earlier stages of the game to stack those dragons and maybe force Immortals to kind of group.
And when looking over on the CLG side and finally starting to get things online, it feels like when Contractz can make those early plays down on the bot side, it's worked out so well. Can you do it against the lane that Immortals has brought to the table?
Yeah, that's going to be the big question here. You know, ever since the TP changes, a lot of these enchanter and pushing bot lanes have been a lot stronger. It's more difficult to punish, but you know, if Contractz can get a wraparound on them, you know, Gwen is not the strongest ganking jungler, of course, but if they are overextended, there is the possibility of a chase down. You know, Poome can look for some sort of an engage, and if you can force those flashes, things can get a lot more difficult, especially post 6 if Palafox is going to move down and try to make it some sort of a 4-man play. That can be potentially a lot more effective. As it looks like Immortals just want to kind of play for brush control here, sweep that out, make sure there's no side lane control. This is actually really important when you are playing these enchanter matchups, because sometimes you'll have junglers actually start trinket ward, walk down towards bot, you ward the brush, you can swap the sweeper, and then that can kind of give you the ability on CLG's side to react to Karma's poke, right? So they go down there, they sweep out the brush, and now Immortals know we're going to have the pushing lane and we're going to have side brush control. So Tahm, Kench, and Jhin are going to have to actually drop their ward to sacrifice that, which can be reacted to, and that just gives them a lot of power in that 2v2.
Gathering that early intel to hopefully turn it into some proactivity later on the side of Immortals. As we said before, both these teams in CLG and Immortals having a lot to prove, wanting to set the tone on day 1 of the Super Week to bring themselves elevated more in the standings. Now, with Gwen coming into the jungle, because I feel like when we first saw that happen, it was very much dependent upon the picks around, a lot of sustain to really lean into that. What do you think we're looking for from Contractz in the early stages? I
mean, in the early stages, generally as Gwen, you're just going to want to farm it out. You don't really want to interact with Xerxe. You're looking more for mid-game power, for late-game power. This champion can teamfight very well post-6 when you do have that Shroud available. But as far as early gank, unless someone is really overextended, you can't really capitalize on that. If people do overextend, you can ghost and chase down, but really it's about warding, it's about tracking the Jhin, and just getting your farm, getting your levels to kind of set yourself up for success later on.
So we'll definitely be keeping track of how Contractz manages to pull that power in later after spending his time across the jungle, whereas Xerxe now has moved over towards that top side to continue off with the clear. And we're getting a little bit of a...
Immortals team comp actually drafted a lot of tools against CLG, and I was surprised to see the GP taken into Karma, because a lot of the time...
I'm going to rip into this conversation here, because as you can see, teams have already loaded back.
Oh, yeah, shut up, Mark!
And nobody wants to hear Mark talk. They want to hear
even me.
LeTigress and Azael.
No cool name that time, huh, Dash? Just LeTigress and Azael back at ya for CLG versus Immortals.
We'll work on it. We'll workshop this. We'll get it sorted out. Get something better in Doug Duo for sure. But this is going to be an exciting one, and you can see already, you know, some aggressive plays down on that bottom side. They're trying to push. They're trying to play in their face, and they've actually caught the Jhin.
Ooh, the route directly onto Xerxe. Flash away from Palafox. First blood afforded over to IMT, but it continues to go down. Contractz, though, he ends up returning, and PowerOfEvil is in dangerous territory. One more click will get the passive up and ready. Snip, snip away, my friend. Contractz takes the double kill.
Oh, Contractz, the double kill. He gets a rev up. That is huge for the Gwen here. You know, they actually caught out Xerxe, so they wanted to go aggressive, but, you know, it did get turned around on them pretty quick. We got to see the power of that Zhao, but when you are ignoring Contractz, he has Conqueror fully stacked. He has the Ghost up. In that extended fight, he got so much value. So Palafox, you know, was going over actually for a ward here, but Contractz was right behind him. Palafox does get burst down pretty quick, was the flash follow, but the Ghost is providing a lot of value, chases him down, catches him up, full stack there on the stiff, gets that through, and then at this point, you just don't have enough damage to actually finish him off as PowerOfEvil. That is kind of the power of the sustain in his kit. Healing for a couple hundred throughout that fight. Early double kill for Gwen is really concerning for Immortals because you're kind of slingshotting past this weak early stage with this big injection of gold.
Yeah, I thought Contractz was going to spend all that time just roaming through the jungle, get a little bit of farming under his belt, and that was Xerxe setting up for that potentially, but a great return from CLG to bring themselves into this advantage and the rotation from that jungler and mid position. We have seen them synergized in the past and can be such a great foothold to catapult them into future success.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Palafox had the push, so he wanted to actually make a move for a ward, and it was just smart play from Contractz. You know, he is covering this little warding mission there from Palafox, and normally if it's just the Ryze, he face checks that, he's just going to die for free as Orianna moves over. But because Contractz was there to actually protect, even though Gwen is generally a weaker early game champion, it just didn't really matter. And now Poome going to take a lot of damage here.
Ooh, gets rooted, throws up the gray health and flashes out of the direction. But Luger's here, throws down some autos. Contractz is in the vicinity, sweeping out as well to make sure that he's not sought out if he does need to intervene here. We know that Immortals have warded up the entirety of the river, so they'll be seeing it. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Contractz moved forward, but the sweeper range is not as big as the ward sight range. So he stepped out of the brush with the sweeper on, but didn't actually catch that ward, so they don't get that info. Immortals knows he's backed off now, so they can really push just full-on aggression here. They're going to try to force a flash out of Luger, perhaps.
Oh, the heal was already used prior as well, so now Summoner is completely down for Luger on the CLG side.
Yeah, that is huge. They forced out all those sums. Unfortunately, it was Turtle's flash in trade. You know, it wasn't Destiny flashing in to actually force that out, so Turtle is now at risk as well. Destiny will still have his flash, but Caitlyn going to have to be a little bit careful when they don't know where that Gwen is at. But we're seeing this aggression pay off. You know, it's often about actually poking the TK more than it is about this marksman. And now Contractz and Palafox trying to move towards the top side. Zhin is down on bot. Does Revenge even have his Shroud available? Oh, he just got 6, so that is really big. Might be difficult to pull off the dive now.
Seems like he saw this coming, backing off towards the tower, dashes through nicely so he can get out of the way. This does mean that plates are going to go down. Jenkins continuing to target the tower itself, but Revenge playing very carefully with the numbers.
Yep, getting 6 there, using that to actually stay safe was really well played. As you said, unfortunately, he does have to give up a plate. He does have to miss out on this farm. At least they are getting Dragon on bot side, but it was really the base timings there that kind of afforded CLG the time to get this done. PoE had no teleport because he had actually died, and he was back in base. So Palafox just goes towards top side, gets that nice advantage for them. They've now created a pretty big lead there for Jenkins, and Palafox still had his TP, so able to get back towards mid, catch this wave that's pushing in. You can see the CS advantages are being extended in both of these solo lanes here, and those are the guys that are going to be playing through side. Those are the guys who can try to really make a lot potentially out of this gold lead. At the very least, though, Immortals did get the early dragon, so they are going to be stacking towards Soul and going to potentially have a good one here. You know, could get something like an Ocean Soul, maybe. That's probably what they're really going to be hoping for, is it's Ocean Infernal or Cloud.
Working towards that bot side advantage, trading off of that pressure that CLG brought towards top. No teleports available now for anyone. PowerOfEvil will be the first to come up because of how he used that early after that initial death. So still limited movement on both sides.
Absolutely, and that's one of those cases where GP ult can become really effective, right? No one else can actually match, but if you have a 3v3 or a 2v2 and you get a high value GP ult, that can be really nice. Just play for that cross map ulti. And Jenkins from ahead, this champion can be so frustrating to actually deal with. You know, he gets that early sheen. Revenge did not have a good early buy, and you're just getting Q grass procced over and over. PoE trying to potentially threaten a dive here with Xerxe. They're going to go 4 bot, and they are going to look for this. Poome is not 6 critically.
He won't be able to chomp up his ADC if needed. The cannon barrage comes through from the GP as well. A nice slice. WildTurtle picking it up onto the catfish. Hook, line, and sinker. Bottom lane eliminated from CLG.
That is so big, and that's even the GP ulti. They don't even get a kill back in that dive. Revenge is being put completely out of the game, so there is a pretty big cost fest on the top side. This is 3 solo gold plates, I believe, that have all gone over there to Jenkins. As you can see, Jenkins and Contractz are both super rich at this point. Jenkins almost ahead of Contractz at this point without having a single kill. He is going to be printing gold up there. A good 1,300, going to be 1,400 once he gets this plate over Revenge already.
Quite the CS advantage. CLG continuing to move as
Flash.
a unit as the bot lanes made their way towards mid. Xerxe, none the wiser, throws out the Crescent Guard for a little bit of sustainability. It ain't enough though. Palafox grabs it.
Almost able to burst down Luger. That got pretty close. Luger did have the heal, so he was comfortable enough to actually sit on that. Tries to turn for the kill, but a good catch on Xerxe, who's just being a little bit too aggressive there. Contractz are the early 2 kills, just go straight Nashers. So his ability to actually solo down these objectives becomes super, super scary. When you do have an AP jungler with high sustained damage, like a Diana or a Gwen, early Barons, early Heralds, things like that become such a breeze. You can even, 2-man, 3-man Baron shortly after 20 minutes because there is a lot less resistances to AP damage from Baron than there are to physical, which kind of gives you that flexibility to threaten these early plays, and it's something that Immortals are going to have to watch out for, albeit, not for 10+ minutes.
I love that you mentioned the Diana as well, because when thinking about Contractz, never mind, because Contractz is in the middle of the action right now, ends up Blasconing right into the center of Immortals. Palafox can't do anything about it, so Immortals grab that victory kill.
Yeah, that's a pretty big oopsie there. Gives over the shutdown. Didn't have any vision towards the top side and just Blascones over. Wants to try to go pick up that scuttle, potentially even threaten the Herald, but does end up getting shut down. Loses a lot of tempo, and they're going to look for another play.
Oh, Xerxe shockwave to bring Palafox right into the vicinity. Xerxe tries to go for the connect, but Palafox flashing away.
Nice flash to actually get back to safety, but Immortals, really getting a lot off of that. They force out the flash. PoE's kind of in his comfort zone. He's picked up a couple kills after getting very far behind in those early plays. Luger getting threatened again. Gonna try to use this ult to push them back.
Curtain opened. Abyssal dive for Poome, trying to get the knock up. The damage is hitting, but is it strong enough? Destiny locked down temporarily. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Palafox falling into some trouble, which also means it'll be difficult for him to assist when any of this action comes down in the bot lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Jenkins just relentlessly pushing, though. He is so far ahead, and he grabs the early Hexdrinker here. Really, the only way you could actually fall behind now is if Revenge could pull off some sort of a solo kill. But with you having a Hexdrinker and him spending all his gold on early tabbies, there's just no kill threat from Revenge. So Revenge just kind of has to take it. Getting shoved in, getting that tower actually farmed up. If Immortals can keep the push here on bot side too, you can take the second dragon on spawn, and things are looking good for them on their bottom 4, but the question is, are you going to be able to get Revenge to a point where he is relevant in this game? Because he has been so far put out of it.
When WildTurtle and Destiny denying this bottom lane as much as possible, also buying the time for Xerxe to come into the territory. They have a couple controls down as well, so blockading that vision that CLG tried to establish before. They seem to be very aware, though, that they're in dangerous territory. Luger already down to 400 HP, gets chomped on up with the Devour. Ace in the hole comes through, tanked up. Luger nice and shielded at this point in time. So the rest of IMT, they back away from this, but they do get the tower because of that pressure.
Yep, gonna be able to get the tower. The GP ulti does cover on bot side. I'm surprised they haven't started up the dragon yet, though, because they are spending a lot of time down here on this bottom side. Now PowerOfEvil maybe gonna get wrapped on, but could get the solo.
Oh, another shockwave. Contractz coming through. Can he punish him for the misdeed of the solo? Needlework coming through. Another snip from him. He does get the return. Xerxe all the while, though, does finally start up this dragon to get it stacked once more, and has the bot lane coming to support him.
Yep, they knock down that tower. They will grab a dragon here, and it's just gonna be about who can get more from their super fed side of the map. GP on a very early Triforce here, has the Hexdrinker plus the Triforce already. Revenge has absolutely nothing right now. And then you look down towards WildTurtle, he has gotten this massive injection of gold. PowerOfEvil is looking really, really good here as well. Those guys have the early mythic. Xerxe has his early mythic, so they are at a really strong part of the game. We'll see what they can get done with this Caitlyn now, because they want to move Caitlyn around the map. They want to try to continue to farm these plates, pressure towers, and they're going to send Revenge just down towards bot lane to try to cover that pushing wave and just get as much golden XP as he can.
seeing some of the comments from Reddit, the thing I was going to say before about Contractz is when he came back into the LCS on EG stepping in and he had such explosive play on picks like the Diana, being able to execute well. He has a history with AP junglers, Nidalee being one of his favorites in times past. So I think CLG fans are kind of holding on to, hoping, all right, let's see what you can do on this Gwen, especially when you have that start afforded, especially when you have Poome here to go for the answer onto Revenge, who tries to ult away, even use the Ignite, but it's not enough. One down in favor of CLG.
Oh man, that's brutal. He goes towards bot side, trying to just pick up a bit of safe farm here, ends up going down anyway. And they have the Herald to crash here, so Palafox is going to be able to continue pushing this in. Plates are about to fall, so that bot lane tower might just straight up die as actually plates fall. It's going to lose all those resistances, and it's going to be able to get knocked down here pretty quick. Up on that top side, Caitlyn is still pushing, and Jenkins playing aggressively.
Caught into the sights by Xerxe, throws out the wind, becomes lightning, flash away, and the additional sustain of the potion. So Jenkins does survive, but it's a continued onslaught from IMT pressuring this top side.
Yep, just continually playing through that Caitlyn, move the Caitlyn around the map, continue to try to get as many towers as possible. Because even with this Caitlyn being so strong, Jenkins and Contractz are just so far ahead that they are still down nearly 2,000 gold here. And CLG, is at this point where coming up on this third dragon, they may feel confident to straight up fight for it.
Gold lead for CLG. Is it enough when Luger gets knocked up and isolated under this tier 1 in mid? Contractz is in the area, so is Poome. So IMT knowing that, not having the vision, they'll go ahead and back off. They take that victory of the kill. Both
teams just being so aggressive, playing through their points of strength. A lot of kills here. 15 minutes in, we have 11 kills. A pretty crazy action-packed game so far.
I love it when you have two teams that, when mentioning the fact that they need to prove themselves and bring things up, you want to see them proactive. You don't want to see them sitting back and waiting to respond to mistakes of the other side. Make the plays yourself and see what you can do with it in the game.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. You need to be able to play with confidence. You need to be able to capitalize on the opportunities that are afforded to you, and both teams have been doing a pretty good job of that. Revenge, probably just going to try to hold a freeze, over on that bottom side if he can get one, just to be able to try to, get that going for himself. But the wave is pushing away from him for now, and Jenkins is heading down there, so he will, again, unfortunately for him, be matched up against this JP that is just so far ahead. But I'm really looking towards this next dragon. It is Cloud, which Immortals are probably not super happy about, but
preemptive flash from Destiny here. The cannon barrage route directly onto Xerxe. He has to get out of this as well. Needlework thrown by Contractz, and it's additional zoning because the curtain has been called. Xerxe now on the outskirts of it, but the ultimate still active for Contractz. He gets a pretty good blast through him.
Shockwave's there,
Gonna go ahead and get caught off right here. Xerxe on the attack. WildTurtle picks one up onto Poome here, but it's Contractz and Poome down now for CLG. They lose another. Two more standing. Luger, you are in a barrel right now. Shots taken by Immortals. 4 down for CLG.
Oh my. Seconds late on it, so it was very, very close. And as a result, ends up going down, but we are back in game. Everything moving forward. 4 for 1 for Immortals. And that is a big play for them, given that they can be potentially picking up their third dragon here pretty soon. And have now really closed that gold lead, because they were about 2K down behind that play.
Definitely changes things a bit for them, but CLG not completely out of it just yet. We still have about 35 seconds until this next Drake spawns, which is IMT's opportunity to get onto Soul Point, unless CLG want to disrupt this. And as called out before, that's something that they can look to do now that they've been unlocked from the lanes.
Yeah, absolutely. They can contest it. It looks like they are trying to set up here, trying to establish vision to do just that. And it is Cloud Soul, which is kind of the least desirable. I think that Immortals would have been hoping to grab an Ocean Soul or an Infernal Soul here instead. So there's the possibility that CLG, if they don't have the right angle, just decide to give it up. But for now, they're pushing through mid. They're trying to get the waves going in their direction, moving into river, trying to establish vision control here as much as they can. But Revenge is on the flank, and I'm not sure if he's been spotted. Kind of looks like Palafox is hunting for the flanking player because they do not have eyes on Revenge. We'll see if they can find him. before we check.
Last cone's still up for him too to try and jump into any of this if needed. The Drake already whittled down to about 40%. CLG keeping the target on it. Cannon barrage. Xerxe rooted in the center. Goes for the objective at hand. And it's secured over by CLG's side. Palafox flashing into the pit. And there's a blast cone for Revenge to get into it as well. Hefty damage onto Contractz. Even throwing the ball down from IMT. But it's CLG granting themselves the objective, but losing their jungler afterwards. I think they're okay with that.
Absolutely. That's a big trade for them. That pushes back the Soul so much. Luger, though.
Palafox
nice
stopping downside. PowerOfEvil gets rooted up, but it doesn't matter. The blast damage too good. So enemy mid laner out of it. Xerxe throwing around. Wants to take down Jenkins. Can he get it? Luger on the outskirts, dishing out the damage as Jhin as much as possible. But here it is, Poome on the opposite side to try and help him if needed, but looks like everyone's just gonna back off.
Yeah, but the end of that play was really good for Immortals, because while they're getting those kills in that fight on that bottom side, Turtle actually pushed in mid, takes down the tower there. 2 more kills as well go the way of PowerOfEvil, and he gets the push in the way of bot. So they got a lot off of that. CLG really happy to actually be able to take this dragon and delay the soul, but not able to get a clean exit on the fight. After they get this smite down to about, what is 20 HP or something, you take it by an auto, 940, goes to 24, and then the smite comes through. So it was just a split second too early there from Xerxe. Contractz reactive smite when it's down to 24 HP. Revenge, nice E over the wall. RE, second activation there, comes through, kills off Contractz, and they're just trying to get out. But Luger really takes a very risky path. He wants to go back towards mid to defend that, but you do not control your own jungle there. So Luger getting punished, and on the other side, PowerOfEvil winning out on the 1v1 against Palafox, and now Poome is caught out in a weird spot. He's gonna have to blow his summoners to try to get out. They lose multiple kills, and a lot of that was kind of caused by just some risky pathing. So Immortals get a ton of gold really off of that play.
Gale Force had already been used in the past, so Luger didn't have that additional escape that a lot of these more immobile ADCs tend to rely on. Whereas if you're looking at the opposite side for the marksman, WildTurtle feeling pretty good, 400 bounty on his name. Xerxe starting to get pursued, throws it back onto Contractz, and the curtain is called once more. Destiny almost out of the range of it and does get blocked off. Contractz now the subject of the ace in the hole, brings him to a very dangerous place, but the target is on Poome, centered in the fight here. And Jenkins alongside Luger, they're actually separated from Contractz and Palafox, retreating over towards that top side. So no continuation from that.
Yeah, rough for CLG, just not quite enough damage to actually get that final bit they needed onto Destiny. Contractz couldn't hit that last activation of the R. Destiny snuck out. Turtle arrives at the ace in the hole, pushing him out, and Poome had already blown his flash on that bottom side, so he's easy pickings. They get another kill there. And Immortals just continuing the pressure here, taking down the top tier 1 right before that. They were 500 gold or so down just before that previous dragon. At worst, they were down about 2K. They're now 3,000 gold ahead here. And CLG are just struggling to find success in these plays. They don't really have any pressure through sides. You know, they have Ryze GP, who can play towards side, but they haven't been able to control vision. You can see on the map, like, where is their forward vision? They've got nothing even up to the river. This entire line is all Immortals. As far as it goes, is about this pink ward. That's as deep as they've gotten their vision. So no ability to actually play out on the map, even though that's kind of what their composition here wants to do. So it's going to be tough. Into another pause, unfortunately, here. As we saw, pings were kind of over there on towards the Baron.
Plays when you can't surpass that line of scrimmage.
Yeah, it becomes difficult, right? You have to get pushed, you have to make them respond to the wave, then be able to get that response. But Immortals, as we said, starting up the Baron, they saw that GP was down towards bot. They knew he did not have his teleport. It is not going down fast enough to actually fully commit to the finish. So I think they're going to be looking for a turn, but they haven't pulled off it just yet.
CLG moving on up towards the Baron. Contractz on the outskirts of the pit. There is a singular route onto WildTurtle right now. He uses the net to get some more distance between them, but Revenge, he's going in for it a bit. Xerxe with a follow-up as well, gets so chunked down by these barrels. They are starting to hit hard.
Yeah, absolutely. That's back-to-back barrels that Jenkins actually hit onto Xerxe, and that pretty much means you cannot fight off of that. So Jenkins, nicely played. GP ulti, pushes them out of the pit, hits back-to-back barrels onto the enemy jungler, gets a push in mid there, chunk that down as well. So we are seeing the power of all this gold that is in the pockets of the GP. He's not going a crit build, so it's not going to be the full-on barrel one-shots, but He is very, very strong, very rich still, despite the fact that they haven't been able to get as much done. You want to play through these strong lanes. You know, send GP down to the ward's bot side, have Contractz shadow him, push out this wave, see if you can get yourselves into a 2v2 with two of these players that are up in gold. Because if
Lack of CC that kind of exists on Immortals comp makes it difficult.
All right, well, once again, we are back in the game, so I'm going to try this one final time. LeTigress, Azael, take it away.
Yes, we are back. Baron getting started up once more. 23 minutes. When you got the pauses, it's like we're in Inception. Every minute
Hour
is
3
equal
of
to...
a 22-minute game.
Let's go. Just more League of Legends action for everybody here. But yeah, so now a little opportunity for both their teams to reset as well.
Yep. Always reminds me of this Hunter x Hunter arc.
Yeah.
Where it's like the entire episode happens and like 8 seconds have passed.
I always think that with a lot of, you know, DBZ classic days. He's gonna be ready in 3
They're
minutes.
charging up.
This is a 3-part episodic storyline.
Yeah, the smoke's still clearing 4 weeks later. All right, well, Immortals gonna be able to grab another dragon here uncontested, so they move to Soul Point. They're almost done their charging up here. It's been a very action-packed game. It just doesn't feel that way because of all the pauses, unfortunately. I mean, this is a 21-kill game, and it was that many kills at 22 minutes. Revenge now here on the run, CLG trying to push up the sides. They need to clear out some of this vision, try to establish some wards so they can utilize this GP and Ryze, who are very strong, to create some pressure on the map, because really, the way that they have got to buy time is through these picks on the side lane. Palafox does spot them coming for him and will be able to back it up. Doesn't know exactly if they're committing to him, so we'll have to spend the Realm Warp, unfortunately.
Revenge answering to the push-up of that wave over on the bot side, does have Unleashed Teleport to help him anytime he needs to rejoin the rest of the team. Currently down for PowerOfEvil, but both TPs up for Jenkins and Palafox as well. In terms of setting how things can be going in the near future.
Yep, I mean, I think for Immortals, they just want to play towards Soul now, continue grouping for these fights. They've been doing really well in the 5v5. And CLG, it's up to them to try to make something happen through side. Jenkins has been strong in these 1v1s. He will still win that 1v1. He's very far ahead as far as the gold is concerned. Ma is super efficient now. Ever since they added the lifeline passive back to it, you know, all the CDR on it, it's really, really strong. And the fact that the shield actually scales with AD, so very difficult for Revenge to ever win in that 1v1, but hasn't been able to push further to actually get much done. Immortals, though, trap line set up. They are on to Baron, trying to force GP to answer.
Curtain call for the intel right now to see how committed Immortals are to this objective, because that vision that was previously acquired by CLG was taken out, and they don't want to overcommit for something that they don't necessarily have to answer. Instead, keeping them off of it for as long as they can.
Yep, just going to be able to kind of force them off pretty easily. Didn't get anything from GP. I think that was really the goal, was they were trying to at least get GP to blow his ultimate or to drop his TP. But right back onto it. Once again, they still have the trap line. PowerOfEvil and Destiny are looking for the turn here.
Oh, and they find it a nice lockdown onto Poome. He's going to be taken out of this fight as soon as he enters it. So Immortals, without the protection of that Tahm Kench, they feel much more empowered to commit onto this Baron now. The Cannon Barrage comes down to peel them off a tad. Contractz already seen over towards that top wave to clear it. Revenge
right
pushing away Luger and Palafox, and with CLG no longer in the vicinity, they can go for it.
Yeah, Revenge actually TP'd first here. Jenkins is walking up. There's no GP ulti, but they are getting low here. CLG can definitely fight this.
Oh, Revenge isolated. Luger going for the shots as well, but Xerxe, he is low. Contractz throwing out the needlework, goes into stasis. Xerxe, even with the pressing guard around him, has to back off of the fight. They managed to take out the enemy jungler. Contractz, his contract ended right now. Revenge, can he get the kill onto Luger? Immediately answered by Jenkins because he was already bot low. PowerOfEvil in pursuit, ace in the hole, brings Jenkins down to about 300 HP, and Poome has respawned, which means he can come through for that additional level of protection.
Man, Contractz just went way too early on that one. He needed to wait for the rest of his team to actually make that collapse happen. He goes in very, very quick. Now the flash on the wall.
For the wall, the roof, the knock-up. It's good. WildTurtle bringing the Gale Force back to it, popping that catfish again. and now CLG 3 eliminated. It was just Revenge that's still down for IMT, but they feel good with the 4 members they have. They can stick onto this Baron and commit to it. Jenkins seeing what kind of intel he can grab if he wants to make any step up, because Palafox is here as well. Realm Warp activated for a moment, but no, continued pursuit from IMT onto this objective. CLG tries to offset it a bit, but it is secured. IMT grab the Baron. Can they turn it around? A tether attempted onto Palafox, but on the opposite side, they lose Gangplank. Jenkins eliminated. CLG out of this objective.
CLG just going in a couple members at a time, back to back to back there, and Immortals punishing them with the turns. First, it's Contractz going in very, very early, and because he's forced out on that stopwatch, stopwatch does not save you against Caitlyn unless the rest of your team is going to push that Caitlyn back, because the trap will be there. You're always going to go down right after it. Then Palafox and Poome trying to make this super aggressive play on the turtle, but they didn't have the vision to realize everyone else was around him, so they end up getting punished for it. Immortals have the Baron recall, they get the reset. Pewee has his teleport, so they're going to look to try to grab Soul here as well. Could they be caught out again?
Poome and Luger moving as a unit, use a blast cone to get over. Luger flashing away, and under the protection of his turret is not enough. Devoured by Poome, who can keep him for a little bit of time. Revenge is taking up most of these turret shots, which ends up being his downfall. Contractz, though, also answered. Once again, Tahm, Kench taken out of it. So Immortals coming out on top with the Baron that they have, with the buff feeling good, taking down turret number 2, and bringing their power across the map.
They're just going to keep on pushing here. Multiple members dead. It's up to GP now, and Jenkins can be caught.
Xerxe, he's got his eyes on the prize. Jenkins brought down to 50% of HP. There's not much he can do against this onslaught. Luger, also squishy. Palafox, now on the retreat. And on the side of Immortals, they've just got their eyes on the objectives. They took down that bot inhib. They can take down this mid turret and keep their eyes on the second inhibitor as well. So much clearing duty that CLG have to be wary of right now.
Absolutely, and they just pull back. They're going to grab Soul here. Xerxe's already over, starting it up as the rest of his team collects that second inhibitor. Immortals so far ahead now. It's going to be 7.5k gold here, plus the Soul. You're looking at nearly 10k in stats when all of that is added on. Immortals are in full control and still have 50 seconds with the Baron, so conceivably could get some of these waves pushed out and maybe even threaten that tier 2 top.
Nice and flush buffs galore for Immortals. They really managed to snowball off of a couple of these past plays where even CLG's hesitancy in that contest earlier really has cascaded into some lost fights again and again.
Definitely been a problem for them. CLG just hasn't been able to find the right setups, hasn't been able to get the vision. Immortals have been the ones dictating the pace of the game largely. CLG did a great job early punishing Revenge, but it just hasn't mattered that he's been behind because PowerOfEvil and Turtle are more than equal to the test. You can see Pewee now 25 Magi stacks. He is enormous. The waves are coming in mid, stacking up, bot stacking up. GP showed bot, so they're just going to go walk up to the tower, take their third and hit for free.
Ooh, the aggressive push forward from Xerxe is followed up nicely, and Poome again taken out, and Contractz even throwing out his ultimate. That stasis will only buy him a little bit of time, hoping that Luger can land some of the curtain call in the process, but none of it will chunk down IMT in the way that they need to. Revenge keeping his eyes over on Palafox, zoning him off completely, whereas IMT want to pressure Jenkins off of this as well. All of the inhibitors down. They can go for the push right now. 4 taken down. Luger only one standing. A fountain can drown you in all of the protection that you desire, but it is not a shield against the power that Immortals have, pulling together a victory and making a statement against CLG.
Immortals absolutely stomping CLG here today. 31-minute win. They have 26 kills in 31 minutes. One of the bloodiest games we have seen this split. PoE and Turtle, monster performances there. Destiny as well, deathless in the win. It's a good look for Immortals, who do seem to be getting better and better week over week. They had back-to-back 1-1 weeks, almost went 2-0 last week, and they're starting off this next week on a really, really high note. We'll see how many wins they can string together because they do have a tough schedule down the last 2 back-end games.
ever so important when it comes to Super Week. I kind of want to watch that game back and skip over all the pauses just to see how fast-paced it was, because it wasn't always Immortals going for the play. Both sides were trying to be proactive.
Yeah, totally. I mean, CLG, I think, was very proactive in the early stages. They just struggled to kind of push the game forward past that. Their bot lane got absolutely blown out, by these plays that were on the bottom side, but it was kind of a cross-map play where they got Jenkins and Contractz monstrously ahead. Contractz started this game 2-0 very, very early off of this skirmish around mid lane, and then they used that pressure that him and Palafox had to actually put Revenge in the dumpster. Revenge couldn't do anything for the first 10 minutes of this game. He's constantly getting zoned off waves, and we saw Jenkins collecting so much plate gold, but they just weren't really able to do anything with it. And, they weren't able to push the game forward through side lanes. They never established vision. They were never able to actually get pressure through sides to draw members from Immortals to that. So Immortals would just show up 5 members strong to every objective and kind of force CLG to walk in blind, which just wasn't working out.
It's one of the strengths that Immortals was banking on, being able to work as that 5-player unit into the comp that CLG brought. And I like what we were seeing from kind of the jungle matchup early on. It felt like they were both very responsive to one another. Oh, Xerxe is down there. I'm going to try and make this play top and keep Revenge pressured. Or the opposite true as well. I see Contractz making that play. Let's go for this Drake down bot where our strength lies. But that mid-game, and when there weren't any more additional openings for CLG to take advantage of, maybe losing a little of that momentum as well, that's where it seemed to disintegrate a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you saw by the end of the game, Revenge basically solo killed Palafox. It's like, he became more of a threat. Even in some of the earlier fights, he was able to trade out his life for at least a lot of damage or do something. He found ways to get value, even though he was very, very far behind.
Well, I'm sure Immortals are feeling pretty good after that one. A victory indeed. We are going to meet up with Pastry Time and